I need to start this episode with a confession. I'm a certified Scrum Master, a certified product owner. I've led agile transformations. I've coached teams through their first sprints. I've stood in front of executives and made a case for agile adoption. I believe agile was necessary. I believe it made things better. But I no longer believe it's sufficient for where we're going. This episode is my attempt to honestly assess what Agile achieved, what it failed to achieve, and why the next evolution requires something different. Let's start with what Agile got right. In 2001, 17 software developers gathered at a ski resort in Utah. They were frustrated. The way software projects were managed was fundamentally broken. Waterfall planning assumed you could know everything up front, detailed requirements documents that took months to produce, fixed scope, fixed timeline, fixed budget. By the time the software was built, the requirements were obsolete. Documentation had become more important than work in software. Projects drowned in specifications, plans, and reports, while actual value delivery stalled. The relationship between developers and business was adversarial. Throw requirements over the wall, blame the other side when things went wrong, contracts and change control instead of collaboration. The Agile Manifesto was a direct response to these failures. 4 values that challenged the status quo. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. The recognition that people matter more than procedures. That a motivated team with good communication beats a demotivated team with perfect processes. Working software over comprehensive documentation. The radical idea that the goal is to build something useful, not to produce documents about building something useful. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. The understanding that we are on the same side as our customers, not adversaries, to be legally protected against. Responding to changeover, following a plan, the acceptance that we can't predict the future, so we need to adapt to it rather than pretend we've already figured it out. These values were revolutionary, and they were right. The methodologies that emerged from Agile thinking made real improvements. Scrum gave us time-boxed iterations. Instead of planning for 18 months, plan for 2 weeks. Deliver something, get feedback, adjust. Kanban gave us flow visualization, make work visible, limit work in progress, see where things get stuck. Extreme programming gave us technical practices, test-driven development, pair programming, continuous integration. User stories replaced rigid requirements, conversations replaced documentation, demos replaced status reports. Teams that adopted these practices genuinely delivered better outcomes, faster delivery, higher quality, more satisfied customers, happier developers. Agile worked. At least it worked better than what came before. But here's where we need to be honest. Agile didn't eliminate coordination overhead. It redistributed it. Think about the ceremonies in Scrum. Daily stand-up. 15 minutes every day, that's 1 hour 15 minutes per week per person, just for stand-ups. Sprint planning, 2 to 4 hours every 2 weeks, call it 90 minutes per week on average. Sprint review, another hour or 2 every 2 weeks, 45 minutes per week. Sprint retrospective, an hour every 2 weeks, 30 minutes per week. Backlog refinement, usually an hour or 2 per week. Added up, a developer on a Scrum team spends roughly 5 to 7 hours per week in ceremonies. That's 12 to 18% of their time, just on the official Agile ceremonies. Then add the informal coordination, the Slack discussions about stories, the clarification conversations with product owners, the technical discussions that happen outside ceremonies. The coordination task didn't disappear, it just changed form. What are these ceremonies actually for? Daily stand-up is for synchronizing the team on what everyone's doing. But if work is visible in the board, why do we need humans to verbally report what the board already shows? Sprint planning is for deciding what to work on next, But if priorities are clear and work is well defined, why do we need a multi-hour meeting to select the next items? Sprint review is for showing stakeholders what was built. But if stakeholders can access the product directly, why do we need a ceremony to show them? Retrospective is for identifying improvements. This one still requires human reflection, but does it require a meeting, or could improvements be captured and discussed asynchronously? Backlog refinement is for preparing work for future sprints. But if AI can help break down stories and identify dependencies, does this need to be a human meeting? I'm not saying these ceremonies add no value. I'm saying they're human solutions to coordination problems that machines could increasingly solve. That's part 1 of episode 1.9. In part 2, we'll explore Agile's limiting assumptions, the problem of ceremony creep, and what actually comes after Agile. But first, a quick word from Rondanini Publishing.
This episode is brought to you by Rondanini Publishing, our independent press based in London. If you enjoy this podcast, we have others you might like. Time across the solar system makes planetary science personal. How long is a day on Venus? What's a year on Saturn? Real NASA data, made fascinating. The Architect's Method is a deep dive into systematic novel writing, a complete framework for building compelling stories from the ground up. Between the covers and beyond is where books, songs, and stories meet conversation. And Unseen Author Journeys pulls back the curtain on publishing with practical guidance on agents, contracts, and breaking into the industry. All from Rondanini Publishing. Explore everything we do at sites.rondanini.net. Now, back to the episode.
Welcome back to part 2 of episode 1.9. In part 1, we acknowledged what Agile got right and calculated the ceremony overhead that remains. Now let's dig into the deeper limitations. Agile made some assumptions that limit its effectiveness. Assumption 1. Teams need to self-organize through meetings. Agile assumed that the alternative to command and control hierarchy was collaborative human discussion, but there's a third option: intelligent systems that coordinate without commands or meetings. Assumption 2. Humans need to communicate status verbally. The stand-up exists because work wasn't visible enough. People needed to tell each other what was happening. But when work lives in digital systems, status is visible without anyone speaking. Assumption 3. Planning requires group consensus. Sprint planning is a negotiation. What can we commit to? How much effort is this? But if systems can predict capacity and effort, planning becomes calculation, not conversation. Assumption 4. Humans must decide what to work on next. Product owners spend enormous effort prioritizing backlogs, but if value can be measured and dependencies mapped, algorithms can suggest prioritization that humans then validate. Then there's the problem of ceremony creep. Agile started as a reaction against process overhead. The manifesto explicitly valued individuals over processes. But what happened? Scrum became a process, a very specific, highly structured process with defined roles, defined events, and defined artifacts. Certifications emerged. You can't be a Scrum Master without a certificate. You can't be a product owner without training. An industry grew up around teaching and certifying people in a methodology that was supposed to be about individuals over processes. Agile at scale frameworks multiplied. SAFe, LESS, Nexus, Spotify, Model, each adding more structure, more roles, more coordination ceremonies. SAFe, the Scaled Agile framework, is particularly ironic. It's become exactly what Agile was created to oppose: a heavyweight process with extensive documentation, certified roles, and elaborate planning ceremonies. The revolution ate its children. Doing Agile became more important than being Agile. I've seen teams that follow every Scrum ceremony perfectly but can't respond to change because the backlog is locked. I've seen organizations that have Agile coaches and certified masters everywhere but takes 6 months to deliver a simple feature. I've seen retrospectives that identify the same problems month after month because the organization can't actually change. The rituals continue, the outcomes don't improve. When you mistake the ceremony for the substance, you've lost the plot. Let me share a specific example from my own experience. I worked with a team that was struggling with their daily stand-ups. The meetings were running long, people were disengaged, it felt like a chore. The Agile coach's solution was to fix the stand-up, use a timer, stand in a circle, use a talking stick. My solution was different. I asked, why are we having this meeting at all? The team had a digital board that showed all work in progress. Anyone could see who was working on what. Blockers were flagged in the system. Everything the stand-up supposedly provided was already visible without the meeting. We replaced the daily stand-up with a daily async check-in. 2 minutes at the start of the day, update your items in the board, flag anything blocked. The bot summarized the board state every morning. If something needed human discussion, a short huddle was called. Result: 5 hours per week saved in meetings. Better visibility because updates were in the system, not lost in conversation. Blockers resolved faster because they were flagged immediately, not held for tomorrow's stand-up. Was this still Agile? It wasn't Scrum, but it was definitely Agile with a lowercase a. Here's the core issue. Agile is a human coordination framework. It assumes humans will coordinate with humans. It just tries to make that coordination more effective. But what if the bottleneck isn't how humans coordinate? What if the bottleneck is that humans are coordinating at all? Every minute a developer spends in a meeting is a minute not spent building. Every hour a product owner spends refining a backlog is an hour not spent understanding customers. Agile reduced the coordination tax compared to waterfall, but it didn't challenge the fundamental assumption that humans must do the coordinating. That's the assumption the algorithmic age challenges. What comes after Agile? Not anti-Agile. The values of the Agile Manifesto remain valid. Individuals and interactions still matter. Working software is still the goal. Customer collaboration is still essential. Responding to change is still necessary. But the implementation needs to evolve. Instead of daily stand-ups, intelligent systems that surface what needs attention. Instead of sprint planning, continuous flow with algorithmic capacity management. Instead of manual backlog refinement, AI-assisted story preparation with human validation. Instead of retrospectives about process, system-generated insights about flow and bottlenecks. The principles stay. The ceremonies transform. I want to be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not saying Agile was a mistake. It was necessary. It moved us forward. I'm not saying you should abandon Agile tomorrow. For most organizations, it's still better than the alternatives they'd revert to. I'm not saying human collaboration doesn't matter. It matters enormously. But collaboration is different from coordination. Collaboration is humans working together on hard problems. Coordination is managing who does what when. What I am saying is this. Agile was the knowledge age's answer to coordination. The algorithmic age needs a different answer. The organizations that thrive in the next decade won't be the ones that perfect their Scrum ceremonies. They'll be the ones that transcend them. In the next episode, we'll bring together everything we've discussed. The coordination tax, the case studies, the historical arc, the limits of Agile. We are at a tipping point. The forces are converging. The transition is accelerating. The question is whether you'll be ready.